My name's Bettina Hein. I'm a serial software entrepreneur. I've founded 3 companies so far. My first one was SVOX, a text-to-speech software company in Zurich, Switzerland. The second one was Pixability, video advertising optimization company in Boston, Massachusetts. And the third one is Juli, a digital health company for chronic conditions, which is based also in Boston, Massachusetts, but I actually work on the company from here in Switzerland. My first company raised $8 million in investment, and I sold it for $125 million. For my second company, I raised $28 million in VC investment, and that company is pretty large now and profitable, and hopefully we'll have an exit there soon as well. Juli, I just started last year, and we're off to the races and doing well there as well. I'm also a shark on the Swiss version of Shark Tank called Höhle der Löwen Schweiz. So the most important learnings I've made is that you have to look at 2 things. The first one is the team. Is there more than one founder? How do the different founders work together? Is there a harmonious collaboration between them? And also, do they have complementary skills? The second is the market. You have to choose a large enough market in order to be able to make mistakes as a startup. If you pick too much of a niche, you don't have much room for error. The most important moments for me was with my first company. We struggled for a long time to find the right customers, to make money. And then one day, we decided we were going to increase our prices by 10x. And it worked, and we were instantly profitable. So that's what I always counsel startups. Try to find out what are people really willing to pay for what you do. Have you ever gone to work when you have this knot in your stomach and you don't feel like going there? I had that actually before I founded my first company, because I founded my company right out of graduate school. This was during an internship. And I tried to hide in the bathroom as much as possible. And I knew that if I had that again, I would have to leave. So I was really skeptical about the importance of company culture, actually. So I really turned from Saul to Paul. I thought oftentimes company culture, company values is something that, are nice words and you put them up on your wall, but they don't mean anything. What I really learned when I did put the effort in to create these and then to live by them, it was almost magic. You could really tell that people adhered to them, that they bonded better together, and it just really worked. I think company culture starts with the founders. So finding the right fit between co-founders is the first building block. I don't really like it when companies that are 3 people come with their 120-page culture document. That doesn't work. But if you're 10 people in the company, you should have something there. You should start thinking about this, because you will need to make a lot of hiring decisions if you're going to scale a company fast. And you need to know which people will fit, which ones will work for your team, and which ones don't. You can give guidelines for the company culture, and then you can reinforce it. That's really important. It's not a one-time thing where you say, this is our company culture. We're going to, be honest to each other and collaborate and love our customers. And then you do nothing else. What you really have to do is create different types of rituals around it, different types of ways to get people to understand what it's all about. as an example, when we did, at my last company, at Pixability, when we did monthly meetings for the whole staff, one of the people on my team would choose one of the values in our company culture code. And I would give then an example of something I had seen in the last month that was true to that value. I would talk with every single person we interviewed, every job finalist, about company culture. We had a public culture code that everybody could download from our website. We also had our evaluation system. When you got your half-yearly or yearly evaluation, part of that was how much did you adhere to our culture code? What was it that you contributed to that? So this really permeated our whole culture, and people really loved adhering to it because it meant something to them. When I coach startups to do this, I ask them to think about what's really unique to them. And oftentimes what's important is for the founders to look within themselves, because company culture is often an extension of the founders' personalities. So they have to think about what is it that they bring to the table, and then they have to pull in others in the company. For example, when I did this for Pixability, I didn't just go off-site with my senior management team, but instead we took people from different levels in the company and asked them to contribute. I wrote a first draft, and then we worked on that with several, mostly junior people, and they really captured the essence of it, and it felt much better when we'd worked on it together than the first draft. You don't have to have the most original culture code to be a successful company. It just has to work for the people there. So what I did is I looked at Netflix, I looked at Zappos, I looked at Amazon, I looked at HubSpot, and I really synthesized, what I liked out of those documents and brought my own thoughts to the table, and then made sure the whole team contributed to that as well. What I did in the past is to set expectations, and some of those expectations are, what do you expect of the company, and what does the company expect from you? And that has to hold the balance, right? It can't be all lopsided. You have to do X, Y, and Z, and, just do your job, and this is what we want. But it also can't be, I want all these perks, but, what I give back, I don't know. So I think there's a very important balance there. It's not always easy. You have to look for a lot of weak signals. So one of the signals is, how does the management team interact with each other? How do the founders collaborate? Another thing is when you visit the company, it's become harder in these pandemic times. When you visit the company, what are the vibes that you get? Is there a lot of energy? Is it buzzing? Are people talking to each other? Or is it just very quiet and studious? It doesn't mean that one thing is better than the other, right? If you have something where you have to deliver very exact results and very exact analyses, sometimes it's good if there's more a library atmosphere than just craziness and people buzzing back and forth. But if you're doing something, in the creative industry, might be better if there's more buzz. I had the privilege to see a company that is now a multi-billion-dollar company being built from very early on, and that was HubSpot in Boston. And that was really fun to see how they established all these rituals, how they how they got people onboarded, how they created all these different content formats to communicate about the company to the outside. That was really, really cool. I think it's really important on an entrepreneurial journey. You're going to get knocked down many, many times, and you have to be able to get back up. I think if the founders do that really well, it teaches the organization to be resilient. If you can communicate that and model that behavior, you can build a lot of resiliency. The cost of not having a good company culture is that you don't like working there. If people will not harmonize well, they're not going to like each other that much, and you are not going to have as good an outcome. As an investor, as the person that works there, as the management team, it just won't work as well. There are a number of ways to source deals. Sometimes entrepreneurs are really good at contacting you themselves. I think it's also really important that you speak with people in the market. So what are other investors seeing? If you go to events where startups are presenting, if you read articles in the startup press, all of that gives you an overview of the market, what's out there. And I think it's also important that you kind of focus on things that you understand so that you can actually make a good decision. Not every investor is the same. Lots of investors have an area that they really understand well, areas where they're interested and want to learn more, and then lots of other things that they're relatively indifferent about. And my suggestion to investors is find something that you really have a passion for, that you have lots of domain expertise in. I think the most important things when I try to get people to join a deal is what's the product idea, how big is the market, and what's the founder team like? The best investments that I've made had a really strong fit of the founders to the market. They had a slightly different take on something that needed to be disrupted. Also, they chose a big enough market to be able to make mistakes. And another important thing is, are they setting themselves up for success the way they finance the company? Are they getting ahead of themselves with the valuations that they're asking for, the amounts that they're raising, or are those too small? There is a lot of finesse that you need to have there to set a company up for scalable investment. In order to be attractive for good startups to work with you as an investor, I think you have to have a focus in your investment. You have to be reliable. You have to be able to give them input and be really collaborative with that. See it as a relationship at eye level. Not that you're the big investor and you look down at the startup, but that you can be a peer to them and give them solid counsel. I'm an active CEO in my third software startup, so I am not a professional angel investor by any measure. But I do get a lot of people contacting me, even outside the show, but they know me from the television show. And another thing that I've also been doing for a really long time is my entrepreneurial office hour, which I have every week. And entrepreneurs can just sign up for 30 minutes with me and get my counsel. It's typically not a pitch session. Actually, it's not a pitch session, but through that, I get more connections, more networked in startup circles, and occasionally can help those startups get financed. I would highly recommend to join an angel investor network. If you're just starting out with angel investing, you need to learn the ropes. There are so many different things that can go wrong, just legal technicalities, bringing people together for an investment round, doing due diligence. That's something that most people don't know when they start out as angel investors. And joining an angel club like SIGTIC makes that so much easier. In order not to annoy the hell out of your startups, just don't be a pain in the ass to them. Don't ask them questions constantly, have them run analyses for you just for your own curiosity. Try to work with what they can give you in terms of analyses. Don't send them on wild goose chases by introducing them willy-nilly to all kinds of different people. Ask them who they would like to be introduced to. Ask them where they would like to have help. Well, the most annoying thing that angel investors do is that they can't make up their mind. If I pitch you my company to invest as an angel, it should not take more than 2 or 3 meetings for you to say yes or no. I've had people string me along forever only to then say no. That's really not fair. You're not treating a startup with the respect that they deserve. Understand and boil down the essential criteria for making an investment. I've had investors, potential investors, that always had one more question, just one more question to answer. And the most important thing that startup founders need to do is build the company, not entertain the curiosity of some random angel investor. A good lead investor asks the right questions and doesn't just adhere to whatever checklist they have. I think it's all about fairness and understanding what are market terms. Oftentimes inexperienced investors ask for terms in the agreements that are not standard, and that's just a waste of everybody's time. If you're just joining an angel club, sit back and listen. Try to learn from other investors that have done a number of deals and see how they approach it. Maybe even shadow a experienced lead and see what kind of things they are asking, where they make the judgment calls to continue or not to continue. I think that's really important. Also, it's very important to understand who you are as an investor. What is your comfort zone? Which sectors interest you? And where can you contribute? If you understand what you can contribute and be honest to yourself, you can bring much better added value to the startups. Being an angel investor definitely involves risk. I would not suggest that you spend the money that you've saved for your children's college education into angel investing. It's definitely money that you can afford to lose. In another regard, risk is how much are you willing to invest, not in money, but in time into these startups? How much are you willing to contribute? Where can you really, truly help out? I would counsel startups to have very regular investor communication. For example, they can send a monthly newsletter. They can send quarterly updates. There are also really interesting new solutions that you can use, software solutions that you can use to have a very standardized reporting to your investors. The main thing is to keep them in the loop and anticipate questions, and also be proactive, take their calls, check in. I think it can be a real morale boost for the team at a startup if the CEO brings in the most important investors and has them talk about why they invested, why they believe in the sector, and why they think that this company is going to make it.